Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie News. This is AMC Spoilers, Hunger Games Catching Fire review. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with our spoiler reviews, let me warn you in advance. This upcoming discussion about Hunger Games Catching Fire is going to be completely spoiler-filled. Normally, film reviews are for people trying to decide if they want to go see a movie. If you haven't seen Hunger Games Catching Fire, you are not welcome here. This is for a discussion for people who have seen the movie. Only if you've not seen the movie yet, just add us to your favorite list or watch later list, whatever, and come back and watch us later. Because we're going to discuss the movie in full as if you have seen the film. Have I made this clear enough yet? I hope so. That being said, joining me in this discussion, first of all, sitting to my immediate left, she is the entertainment correspondent for AMC Movie News, Erin Darling.
Hello, guys. And if you haven't seen the movie, you can't sit with us.
Yes, and sitting to her left, AMC film commentator, writer-director, Mr. John Schnepp.
Yes, and I've seen the movie too, so get out of here if you haven't seen it.
And to his left, of course, AMC Movie News editor, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach.
You can sit with us. Just sit with us at your own risk, and it's not our fault now. We warned you.
You have been warned. All right, we are here to talk about the new Hunger Games Catching Fire. Let's start with general impressions first. Just quick, 1 minute or less. Erin, let's start with you, your general impressions of the new Hunger Games.
I think it was so much better than the original. It outdid the original in so many different ways. I don't even know why I'm calling it the original. I'll say the first installment. But it just really built upon everything that we saw, and I was really impressed. I liked it more than I thought I would.
Schnepp?
Baboons. Let me just say baboons have never been more terrifying. I've never seen a more frightening sequence of horrible animals attacking humans, and I loved it. I thought it was way better than the first one. I haven't read any of the books, so I don't really know what's going to happen. I just kind of guess that Jennifer Lawrence will be in all of them, so I figure she will survive in some way if it's just a head on a robotic body in the fifth one, maybe. But, man, this was great.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I did read the books, and it more than did it justice. And, you know, there's a lot of really difficult visuals to bring to life, and they crushed it. And I loved it. And I found the most interesting part because the first book was by far my favorite, no question. But this film did far surpass the original, the first installment. So, yeah, I loved it. I thought Jennifer Lawrence has never been better. She looked stunning. And, the cast overall was just great. Francis Lawrence at the helm. I hope he continues with the franchise.
And for me, I'm one of these guys where I walked out relieved after watching the first Hunger Games. I was relieved that it wasn't terrible because there was so much hype, and I liked it. I didn't love it. I wasn't raving about it, but I liked it. I thought the positives outweighed the negatives. I was just kind of hoping that maybe the sequel will at least do that. But I agree with all you guys. This one far exceeds the original in almost every way, and I'll get to my almosts later. But in almost every way, it exceeds everything about the original. I had a really good time. This time, instead of just last time with relief saying, yeah, I liked it, this time I'm saying enthusiastically, I really like this film. So all of us seem to like it. So let's get into the positive and negatives. Let's start with the positive. Amy Rose, let's start with you. Some of the positives about this film that really stood out to you.
Some of the positives were the cast. I was a little worried who they would get to play Finnick, who they would get to play Joanna, and I thought they killed it. Jena Malone as Joanna Mason was incredible.
Yeah.
She was one of my favorite characters. And, you know, we knew that some of the returnees, Effie has never been better. Elizabeth Banks as Effie. When I had the chance to interview them, this was kind of like Effie's becoming a little less innocent. She's kind of realizing what's happening. Right. So I thought them playing out the whole character arcs of all of the main characters and then, you know, the other new characters, the new tributes were great. I thought Sam Claflin as Finnick was fantastic. I honestly didn't really know how he would perform. I've seen, you know, Snow White and the Huntsman and other roles, and he was fine. He was more than adequate. But in this role, he was exactly what I read. And I love that because these are sacred books to a lot of people. And it's really difficult content and characters. And all of them were how I imagined. And that's such a beautiful world. Also with the cornucopia, that even in the book, it felt a little cheesy, to be honest, at some parts. And I thought they crushed it. It was beautiful. It was rich. It felt real. And all, the bamboos and all of the obstacles that they encountered were really crisp. I couldn't feel the difference between CGI and, real environment setting. And that to me is good filmmaking right there. So those are the things that really stood out.
The holographic guys made of gold blocks that would disappear.
That was real, John.
That one was CGI. I'm letting you know right now. It's a little bit
that
insight.
Was magic
that was CGI
to me. But yeah, just them, the opening scene with them on, in the water and looking around. And I thought they killed it. I loved this movie.
Schnepp, some of the positives.
Yeah, you were mentioning some of the cast. Donald Sutherland, I want to see his character Snow burned alive. He's such an evil, really
He's
well
good.
done
Such
casting.
an awesomely evil
Yeah,
character.
and also I didn't see the Philip Seymour Hoffman switch. I just thought he was another baddie brought in, and he was going to raise the stakes as far as the video game architect designer. But then to have that whole flip around, and plus
So
having
good.
not read the books and knowing, I think didn't they shoot these two parts back to back? Did they?
No, but
No.
they are filming the next part as we speak.
Okay, because that's a negative I'll bring in later. But I just instantly wanted to see the next chapter. I was like, no, I felt
Well,
like
see,
that.
there's three books.
Okay.
So they're currently filming the third book right now, which they are doing in 2 parts, and they might be doing that back to back.
They're going to
Oh,
Twilight,
Okay,
Harry Potter.
so then this
Yeah.
Catching Fire is just one book.
Yes. It's
Okay.
parts, yeah.
Well, that made a lot of sense because when I was watching it, I thought they split this one into 2, and I was like, they haven't even gotten to the games yet. What's happening?
The Mockingjay is the last one.
Got it. All right. Well, yeah, it was. The cast was fantastic. Spear Dude, as somebody mentioned, Finnick. They called him Spear Dude in one of the
That's
AMC
legit.
mailbags. Yeah, because he should be Aquaman because he's got a trident. But he was actually a really fun character.
Yeah.
He was kind of this weird jovial guy who's also a murderer but loved the old woman. Who,
Charming, right?
yeah, so that was cool. Jennifer Lawrence can do no wrong at this point. She's such an amazing actress. I really felt emotionally attached to her and the flight of her entire district getting destroyed at the end, and then that shot of her face transforming from one emotion to another emotion to another emotion, and then credits. It was amazing. So it's a great film, especially when you think about it as being part of a giant blockbuster, made to order, it's been pasteurized and homogenized. It's a giant film, but it actually has real emotions and and a lot of current kind of political climate activity going on. So I didn't expect that either. So it was a great film all around.
Aaron, positives.
Positives. I love the pacing. This was a movie that was a long movie, but it never felt like it to me. And I remember we were talking about the Wolverine a couple months ago and feeling like, wow, it seemed like 2 hours. This movie flew by for me.
Yeah,
I was
it really
entertained and engaged the entire time. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the casting as well, like you guys have mentioned. I loved all the additions. Everyone brought a different element to what we were seeing, and I really appreciated seeing that, and as well as seeing the characters we already know progress. And I felt like Josh Hutcherson, it was his movie. I feel like his character kind of went from being kind of a wimp in the first installment to kind of growing into something more confident and interesting, and I really like seeing that character development there.
Which is really especially true since going through an experience like what he went through in the first Hunger Games would change a person. And that would change a guy. I've got a lot of positives list. I'll focus on a couple. I am not hooked on the Jennifer Lawrence heroine. I'm not a huge Jennifer Lawrence fan. I like her very much, but for instance, I didn't think she deserved to win the Oscar last year. So I'm not super huge on her. She's awesome in this movie, flat out awesome
She really
in it.
is.
Like from everything from the intense angry scene to the thing about the Katniss character is there's also a lot of emotional range you got to bring from anger and despair and happiness and joy and yet love and tenderness and all that stuff has got to be there. And Jennifer Lawrence communicated all of it often without dialogue. I'm so glad you pointed out that one thing about just the look on her face when that's done. Like she said so much with just the look. I don't think she's ever, sounds weird talking about it in a movie like Hunger Games. I don't think Jennifer Lawrence, Academy Award winner Jennifer Lawrence, has ever been better. I think this is my
completely
favorite
agree.
performance
I
of
agree
hers. Speaking of Sam Claflin, I think he was less than passable in Snow White and the Huntsman. I thought he was dreadful in Snow White and the Huntsman. Dreadful. I'll say the D word. I thought he was dreadful in that movie. And so I was never enthusiastic about his casting as Finnick. changed my mind. He was
He
great.
was
He was
Great.
great.
He was great. He played the character exactly how. Now, I did not read the first book. I did read the second and third book, and
So funny to me.
he played. I know, right? And he played it exactly the way I saw it in my head.
Me too.
I mean, he elevated himself way beyond my expectations. It was really cool to see that. You mentioned Josh Hutcherson. I'm gonna say. I just had her name in my head.
Jena Malone.
Jena Malone. Thank you. We were just talking
Yeah.
about Jena Malone. Why did I suddenly brain freeze? To me, Malone just smaller role.
Yeah.
Stole it though.
Loved
and like
her.
it's like holy crap! She just steals every scene she's in. The energy she brings to it. She captivates you. Every time she comes on screen, whether she's stripping in an elevator
Oh,
or
yeah.
she's
Get it, girl.
trying to save Katniss while being really pissed off at Katniss at the same time, which if you read the book, you know why. And she does have this, she's fighting this dichotomy of feelings about her where she's completely committed to saving Katniss, but she kind of hates her guts at the same time. Played that so beautifully. You mentioned President Snow. I mean, come on, he is the frickin' man. I
He
mean,
is,
it's
man.
just
Sutherland.
yeah, Donald,
Sutherland.
of course,
Sutherland.
another good Canadian boy, by the way.
Of course, you have to say that. I loved his relationship with Katniss because
yes.
even when there wasn't dialogue, just the look when they were in the Capitol and they were at that party and
right.
she's like, "I'm on to you," like there was just so much power between the two of those characters.
That scene, because we know that he was supposed to say, and I'll continue on with my positives in a second, but that yes, we know she has to convince him of their love, right? And then they're at the bridal ceremony celebration, the engagement party, and just after everybody starts cheering, you can see him just looking at her and just a very subtle.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So
Yeah.
good.
How much was said in
Yeah.
that moment?
Ugh.
Like, oh my gosh. So the action, I think, was better than in the first one. The emotional levels were better than they were
Right.
in the first one. I just, I'll get into the negatives in a second, but for me, I'm so glad you pointed out pacing. Pacing was brilliant. So much good. And you're right. When the end of the movie came, it didn't feel like the end of the movie. It was just like, what? Wait a minute.
Absolutely.
I thought that was just an hour. That was 2 hours? What?
And that's how the book ended. That's
Yes.
exactly how the
The
book
book ended
ended.
just
like that?
And
Exactly
so
where the book
a lot
ends.
of people
Amazing.
were like, "That's not where it should end," but that is the book because I was on a family trip in Hawaii and I finished book 2 in 2 days and I was like, I need to find it. I literally made my family hunt for a bookstore that I could get the third film because of the way it ended. So I
That's
thought it
how
was
I felt
brilliant
about the
to do
movie.
it.
When it ended like that, I wanted to see the next one
Yeah.
and the one after that.
Yeah.
I
It's
was
It's like, wait a minute, this was all a big part of the plot to rescue you. Oh, and your district's completely destroyed,
Yeah.
and roll credits.
Right.
It's like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
I know.
So
Leave us
good.
hanging.
Okay, so let's then get into some of the negatives. And look, I wanted to do positives first to really give the impression that I really did love this movie. So now I'm going to point it, but nothing's perfect. So here are the things that I did not love about it. A couple of weaknesses, I think. Number one, Liam Hemsworth. I have never been impressed with him, and after seeing Hunger Games: Catching Fire, I still am not impressed with him. I'm just at this place now. He's young, he's got a lot of time to grow and develop and become better. But as of right now, I have not seen him in anything where I didn't think somebody else could have done better.
He's no Thor.
He's no
Yeah,
Chris.
I agree. He's not particularly charismatic or enigmatic on screen.
No.
But he is very good looking. And
Well,
I almost
yes.
feel like that is kind of all that character is because he doesn't really bring much to it.
He has a much larger role in the third, though, so that will be really telling how he handles that because he's a very minor character, as you were saying. Like he
Yeah.
didn't have.
But
that much
Jena
of a role.
Malone took a minor character.
But she was a
and-
fierce minor
but
character.
made her shine. Josh Hutcherson's character is not big and charismatic, but Hutcherson found a way to capture you when he's
Yeah.
on screen and get you to empathize with him and connect with him. And I just find Liam Hemsworth is just not an actor yet who could do that. Really good looks will cover over some shortcomings.
And he's got those.
And he's
All
got those
He's got those.
in spades. He's a good-looking dude, but I was not impressed with his performance. The other thing was, and I think Amy Rose, you and I were talking about this once before, is that I didn't buy into the growing affection between Katniss and Peeta. It just, to me in the movie, it felt like it's all pretend, flip of switch. there's real emotion and I'm willing to die for you and blah, blah. And I felt like I never bought into that. So, and I think in the grand scheme of all the things that are so great about this movie, that is the one point that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit, that I never was able to buy into that. I don't think they paced that part well enough. Like, the movie is so rapidly paced that I feel like sometimes they didn't know when to slow it down a little bit. But for me, these are the biggest blemishes on the movie.
I didn't
Those
feel
two
that way
things
with their relationship. Because
so then what do you think were the weaknesses in the film?
I mean, I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means, but I didn't have a glaring issue with it. I didn't. I mean, I can think of, Liam Hemsworth, I wasn't really offended by that, but I agree. Like, I don't think he's a star. I don't. I think his, strongest attributes are the physical ones, and I haven't seen a performance of his either. So that could be seen as a negative, but I didn't, there really weren't some glaring issues I had with it. I mean, they left out, I would have liked to see Haymitch, because in the book you kind of got a taste of what it was like for him in the games. I would have really liked to see that. It would have been very difficult and not probably a cheap thing to show, but I would have really liked to see that as well, to see like this drunken guy was a winner of the games. Like, how did this happen? And I think he's such an interesting character. So again, that's not really a doc, but they kind of had to pick and choose what the strongest parts to show in the book were. And yeah, I mean, I can think about the film. I mean, I saw it a while ago now, about a month ago, I guess. And I can't really, I left going, I loved that film. But I would like to speak a little bit about that relationship. So in the book, it's not, Katniss, I think the real big turning point was when they were doing the whole district tour, and they were having to say, which is the most ridiculous concept ever. And they were at Rue's district, and they did, the whole thing, and it was really touching, and she watched that man get shot. She watched that man get shot. And to me, that was kind of like the turning point, because she's just starting to realize the power that she has. Like, she is literally the spark in the rebellion, and all these people having the faith and confidence to like not just accept what the government is feeding you and forcing you to do. So to me, this is her whole realization of the power she has, and that terrifies her. This Mockingjay symbol, her symbol, becoming the face of the rebellion, that terrifies her. And that point in the train when it was Peeta and Katniss, that to me was the turning point of their relationship. Because they were, he's like, I can't pretend. Like, I want to feel something deeper here, like, because we've been through so much together. And I felt like they were genuinely trying to get to know each other on that level. And to me, there was an affection that started to grow. But again, it's not about the love here. It's about survival and just the realization of this huger, larger than themselves rebellion happening. So I thought they showed that really well.
See, and the reason I disagree with you on that is because I would buy that. I would totally agree with you on that, except for the one fact that if by the end of the movie they weren't telling us, oh, by the way, there's real affection between these two.
I felt it.
If the movie didn't tell
Yeah.
us that, then I would have been fine with that, to say, okay, well, it wasn't supposed to be there, no problem. But the movie is asking me to buy into that. By the end of that movie, Peeta and Katniss have real deep affection for each other, and I never once in the film felt that develop or grow or come. It just kind of, boom, there it is. And in the book, I did feel it. In the book, you could feel it growing. You could feel it mature. And that's why I thought this is one of those parts of the movie that I thought they could have slowed down the pacing a bit. Because the other thing is, with the really rapid pacing, the arena felt kind of rushed.
I will agree with that.
It felt like all of a sudden just a lot of cannons are going off. People are dying everywhere. And it's just, it almost felt like they spent too much time on the first two acts of the film and didn't give enough time for the third act a little bit. But once again, minor point.
Yeah.
And I wonder if
entertainment
they'll have
nonetheless.
some kind of a deluxe edition eventually coming out with like The Hobbit. There's like, here's another hour. What? Like, here's that hour of all that stuff that you missed.
Cool.
It feels like that could be part of it. I guess, like, I really enjoyed the film so much. I didn't really think about any scenes particularly as a negative. More so as like, I wish they showed one or two more moments. Yeah. And when we got to the actual Hunger Game, with all those characters that they just spent time introducing, there's the brother sister, there's the girl with the shaved teeth, she disappears.
Yeah.
So, not having read the third book, I don't know if she shows up again or if she got scooped up with Jena Malone. I guess survived and got scooped up with Peter, right?
Yeah.
And then,
Pita.
Pita.
Like pita bread.
Yeah. Or pita. Yeah, pita.
Pita.
So they got all scooped up by the little cranny things, and now they're hanging out with Snow. I don't know what's happening, but they're like on the other side or whatever. I believe the relationship growing because I didn't see them in a relationship at the beginning of the movie, and then by the middle of it, when she's like, just hang out with me in bed, like as a friend, it's like you could see that was the beginning. Yeah. To me, that was when it was like, I don't trust anyone else but you, and I'm all alone. I need someone to comfort me. That is like the little spark that then slowly grows into love. So, I mean, it wasn't like
the real world.
Yeah, like it felt that to me was like those moments of reality that merged. Obviously very short moments to kind of glue everything together, but when they kissed on the beach at the end and they were like, "Come on, lovebirds," I believe that kiss.
Me too.
And they needed those.
Wow, I'm in the minority here. I did not. I thought that felt forced and out of place.
Yeah, but
do you believe in love, John?
Do you believe in love? But
anyway, Aaron, you were about to say.
Oh, yes, I felt the chemistry grow a little bit, but I agree with you. There wasn't a lot of it. There wasn't a lot of time dedicated to seeing that relationship grow and change, so maybe that's why it felt a little bit out of place. But in that moment, I felt a little bit of a chemistry between them, and I felt that change and that shift, and I hope it's something that we'll see more of in the next installment. But also, there's so much time spent to Liam Hemsworth and to how his relationship with Katniss is in this movie, and there's so much chemistry there that you see, or so much, they like each other.
She just likes looking at him.
Yeah,
and
that
I
could
never
be
felt
it.
any conflict. I never felt any internal conflict. Like you get a good dose of it in the book, but I never felt any internal conflict in Katniss about the wait a minute between Peta
Little
and,
love triangle.
Right.
Yeah, I never felt any of that. But in the grand scheme of what the movie was, not a big deal. I don't think that was an important. I don't think that the love triangle aspect was as important of a thing as developing the connection between Peta and Katniss.
Yeah, I was gonna say also there's such a separation in this world that they portray as like you're in the game or you're back at home. You're in the game or you're back. So she was able to switch off like, well, to save the people who are not in the game, which is also that dude that I like. Now I'm in the game with this other dude that I'm supposed to be. We're married and we're also getting closer. So you could see how that works.
Right.
At least that chemistry. So
one of the things that I think the movie did better than the book, and you don't often say that, but one of the elements I thought did better, when I was reading the book, the whole explanation of this convoluted way they pulled off this plot to rescue Katniss, and everybody was in on it except Katniss at the end. I remember reading it in the book and thinking this was not constructed well. I don't buy it. I mean, I accept it because that's the way the book ends. Okay, they plan to pop her out the whole time and whatever, but it makes no sense. Why could Jena Malone's character be trusted with the secret, but Katniss can't? All this kind of stuff. The movie, though, felt completely natural to me. They pulled off the caper in the movie. They rescue her, stuff like that. And when, Heavensby, is that how how do you pronounce his first name? Plutarch? Because even the producer of the film, at the premiere, I was at, even the producer of the film stumbled over the name. Anyway,
Heavensby.
But when Heavensby says, we had to bust you out, we had to keep it a secret, blah, 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 I, as an audience member, just went, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I thought the movie actually did it better than the book did, and it didn't pull me out. I was just like, it's like, yeah, so what now? What now? Credits roll.
It was such a brief acknowledgement, though, of what happened that I remember being like, wait, what? Is that, did I get that? Is this what's going on? Because I haven't read the books, so I was a little bit unfamiliar with the situation, a little bit confused at that end. But yeah, just a second dedicated to it and moving on, which is actually what I really appreciate.
Really, what more did they need to say?
Exactly.
That wouldn't have just been wasted narration. I mean, it just would have been, we get it. He was in on it the whole time. They planned to get him out.
It was good.
One line to, Jena had to cut the tracker out of your arm. Okay, got it. They said everything they needed to said. Wrapped it up and left me wanting more.
That's the biggest negative. Is that I want to see the third one next month.
I know.
That's why I was
good.
kind of like, well, didn't they shoot those? But that's how I left the movie, and now you guys just totally disappointed me because I was
Sorry.
like, yeah, Francis Lawrence shot both of those back to back. Catching Fire is like 2 movies, and you're like, no, it's a third book. They're just shooting it now, so we have to wait like 2 years, right?
I think so.
And it's about to go down. Like the rebellion's brewing, like the third one. Like I cannot wait to see what they do with this because this is even more difficult to bring to life in
Hollywood,
a lot
get
of
on
ways.
it. Shoot those trilogies together. Stop messing around.
Guys,
quads.
shoot in bulk.
Yeah, shoot in bulk. Get on it.
And if you've read the books, I won't say it because Schnepp's here. If you read the books, it's especially heartbreaking when you know who dies in the next one.
Oh no,
John,
I'm
come
not saying,
on.
but
I have a
isn't it?
feeling. I have a feeling I
Like,
know who it is.
Don't say it. This is a movie spoiler.
I didn't even like the third book. Like, I read books 2 and 3. I didn't read the first book, and I wasn't thrilled with book 2, and I didn't like book 3. But I ended up loving the second movie, so I can't wait to see what I think of the third one. But even though I wasn't enjoying the third book as I was reading it, when I hit that point, and for those of you who've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Even I was emotionally shattered. I mean, I didn't cry or anything, but I came close. I'm like, what?
He totally cried. He totally cried.
I'm like, what? I just couldn't. I had to go actually flip back a couple of pages and say, wait a minute. I must be reading this wrong. It's like, nope, that person really died. And I couldn't believe it. So I was
Do
like,
I need to read the book now to prep myself?
you
for
should
this?
anyway.
Read it.
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, Cal.
You should anyway, because unlike, the Twilights of the world, this is actually written really well. Like, Suzanne Collins is a really good writer, and it's really rich. And, a lot of the times these crazy images are lost on the big screen, but as we all agree, in this case, they really, I feel like, even delivered more. Like, it's hard to kind of counter that imagination of ours because everything's so beautiful and rich and vivid, but I really think Francis Lawrence did a great job. One other thing I thought they did a really good job on that I felt missed from the first was the Cinna-Katniss relationship with Lenny Kravitz.
Right.
He's a very important character. And in the first one, I didn't really believe that they were so connected. Right. It was fine, but he was kind of throwaway. But this one, I feel like they really elaborated on that. And he's very important. And that last image, when they beat him to the ground, and right before she left, and her face was so expressive. I completely agree. I feel like with each film we're seeing Jennifer Lawrence in, she's getting better and better and better. And this was, I think, her best film to date. Even with the Silver Linings Playbook, she was great in it, but this was much more emotionally challenging and physically at
You
that.
nailed it too, as far as just the characterizations. Like, yeah, the Lenny Kravitz character I cared more about in this movie than I did in the first movie. It just felt more like he was just like, oh, he's the fashion
Throwaway,
designer.
yeah.
Bye.
Right.
Or it's more like there's the rock star cameo quota that we had to fill.
Yeah,
you know what I
right?
mean? It just felt like that in the
He
first
is
movie.
Cinna. That is him.
Yeah,
that's
this
his
is
so
role.
weird because I feel completely the opposite.
Really?
I felt like I felt the connection between Cinna and Katniss in the first one more.
Huh.
Not so much in this one.
I didn't.
I was waiting for that scene to come when the guards come in as she's getting ready to go into the arena.
Ugh.
The guards come in and beat him. What we later realize is beat him to death.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was wondering how they're going to handle that scene, and I was wondering, because I didn't feel the connection to them in this movie, if that scene would have much impact. Yep, scene still had the impact. It was still beautifully done.
Oh, yeah.
It had the emotional impact. I just, and it was funny because the person I saw it with has read the books, and she forgot that the guards come in and beat Cinna and drag him away, and she was like visibly shaken. Like, that's how well they did that scene. I was so impressed. But I almost forgot the thing that I liked about this movie the best over the first one, and because it's an element I thought was a real weakness in the first film, and that is in the first film, it felt very small. Like, even when they were entering the big arena and stuff like that, it always felt small. It always felt like they're fighting over events that are going to happen in this town rather than the events of the world. It didn't feel like it had the grand scale. This movie, totally different
this
story.
felt epic.
It felt epic. It felt much grander scale. It felt like this was a world on edge as opposed to,
A couple of towns.
a couple of frat parties.
Yeah.
It really did feel that Lawrence did such a good job capturing the
great.
immensity of it. So I really like that part myself.
Me too.
Anything else, Ree, before we get into our final thoughts and giving a score to this thing? Any other final thoughts about the film?
I feel like you don't need to read the books to appreciate this film.
You don't.
I feel like
I'll
this
second
film stands alone. Yeah. Like, this film stands alone. I feel like the first one, like, it's good for a Hunger Games film, and I did think it was pretty good from Gary Ross. But I feel like this film is not just a good Hunger Games film, it's a good film. It's a universally really good, well-crafted, great characters film.
Yeah, this isn't a young adult movie.
No.
This is a real movie.
Yes.
So I mean, that's
This
to
is
me,
real.
Like, I saw the Hunger Games almost like forcefully. Like, all right, I'll go see. And then I liked it a lot. But it was one of those films I just felt like, all right, I want to see what are all these kids talking about? Kind of a, like as an old man of the, like that's how I felt going in. And then came out like, wow, that was really fun. And I'm glad kids are reading this book,
Yeah.
But this actually felt like a real film. And it's like of all the things we were talking about. It had an epic scope. It had a real story. And the acting was above par. The directing was incredible. Everything was like
Visually beautiful.
rose a notch above the second movie. So now
agreed.
now they're screwed on the third one. They have to
Or
gotta beat
not.
the
Nowhere to
second,
go
yeah.
but down.
I think
Right.
that
Curse of
it's
the
so
sequel,
positive.
though.
Lawrence is going to stick
No,
with
I
it.
know. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I can't wait to see the third one.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's so much pressure on the sequel that it just doesn't live up to it. But I feel like this movie really, really stepped everything up a notch in almost I will say every single category, even costume design. I think her name is Trish Somerville, who did the costumes. Incredible. What
I
an
actually
amazing
sat next to her
job.
at the premiere.
Look at you.
Yeah, no,
Fantastic.
she's like,
Was she decked out or what?
a little
Capitol?
bit actually. She didn't look like she was from the Capitol, but she was kind of decked out a bit actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that. Yeah, the one negative after thinking about it was like we didn't get enough time to actually. There's no way you're going to know 24 of these people who are all in the
Yeah.
Hunger Games,
The
but
tributes.
just a few more moments or something that because they spent all this time. I would have either liked less time on them, or or more of a payoff for
Right.
introducing them all as a full characters.
Wasn't
None
big
of
in the
us-
book though.
None of us have mentioned Beatty.
Oh yeah.
How good was he?
He was good.
Like it was exactly off the printed page for me. He played that so perfectly with that voice, and he played it exactly the right way to me. Like I was so impressed with that, and like,
Mags.
and Mags was great. Oh, her
So
death
sweet.
scene.
Awful.
Her death scene, like it just.
And Finnick, you could really feel their love
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's just they did so much right, and you know what? I agree with you. This wasn't just good for a Hunger Games movie. I came out of it and I said to somebody, and I mean this. I said, you come out judging these types of movies on a bit of a different scale, but Hunger Games is not just a good young adult film. It is a legit contender to be considered one of the top 10 films of the year.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It's a legit contender for it from my perspective. So I was really quite happy with it. So Amy Rose, we're going to start with you.
Always.
Closing thoughts. We'll work our way down. Closing thoughts, and give us your score out of 10.
Closing thoughts. I highly recommend this movie for really anyone. Adults, young adults. I think they just did an amazing job. They did the books justice. The acting is superb. The casting superb. The visuals. I love Francis Lawrence at the helm of this. I hope he continues with the franchise.
Oh, he is. He's already started
Yeah.
directing the next
and I
one.
really think that hopefully the next two. And I really think that they just nailed it. I'm really proud of what they brought to the screen. If I had to give it a score, I would say 8.5, almost 9.
Schnepp.
Having totally just seen it last night, it hasn't even been 24 hours, I'm going to give it like a 9.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love this film, and as a sci-fi head, it hit all the elements to me as not just a science fiction film, but a real movie, an emotional experience, a story about struggle. I mean, it's got everything that you want
Very
in a
relatable.
movie. I mean, and it was really well executed, really well made. When you're in a film and you're not thinking about anything else but the movie, that's a true cinematic experience to me. When I'm not thinking about anything else or special effects or how did they make that or this, when I'm not taken out of the movie while I'm in the movie, that to me is a real film. And
Amen.
that's what this film is. So it's an amazing film.
It's inspiring.
Aaron.
Well, I will second you on that because my phone died while I was right before I went in this movie, and I wasn't even thinking about my phone at all or wondering when I could charge it once in this movie. It's entertaining. The characters are amazing. You're emotionally invested the entire time of everything that's going on. And I was there. I was in it. And I felt very, very interested and captivated by everything that I saw going on the big screen. I'd give it a 9. It's one of my favorite movies of the year.
And I was really impressed with this film. I liked it an awful lot. Very big, pleasant surprise for me. I have some negatives and some qualms with it, but those are minor in the grand scheme of things. Best performance I've ever seen Jennifer Lawrence give.
Alias.
I just had lunch with Jennifer Garner the other day. I got Jennifer Garner on the mind. I always have Jennifer
I
Garner
would
on
too.
the mind. But it's the best performance I've ever seen her give, which is saying a lot for the type of career she had. Donna Sutherland just bleed Snow, man. And he was just so the epitome of President Snow. It's going to be really neat seeing him play opposite President Coyne next film.
Oh, yeah,
Especially
Julianne Moore?
with Julianne Moore on board. This is really going to be interesting to see.
She's a great character.
I'm going to probably end up still giving it the lowest rank out of any of us here, but I'm still going to give it a really solid 8.5. This is a fun, entertaining, emotionally stirring, emotionally moving, depth, mythology, all great performances. It's a great film.
It's
So-
inspiring. The content's inspiring. It really
It is.
is.
It's a movie about hope,
Yeah.
even when things are hopeless,
And not
I
just
like that.
take in what they feed you, you know? Questioning, which I think is relevant always. So.
And Jena Malone strips in the elevator in a great scene.
Winning.
So, woo! Okay. Anyway, so I guess we got 8.5 to 9.
Yeah,
We got
I'll give it a 9.
9.5.
I loved this
Okay,
movie.
so 9.5, and on the bottom end of the scale here is 8.5.
Which isn't low.
which ain't low. All right, so that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of AMC Spoilers, Hunger Games, Catching Fire review. Make sure you check back. We're going to do a couple of these every month, and we hope you follow us and get out to see the movies first. Remember, don't share this with people because they can't see it until they see the movie.
Spoilers!
It's spoilers.
Spoilerville.
So for me, Amy Rose, John Schnepp, Aaron Darling, and over behind the control panel there, Mr. Dennis Zen. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, I'm John Campia for AMC Movie News. Bye-bye.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.